Hey everyone, Sarah Barnes-Humphrey here of Let's Talk Supply Chain. And I'm excited to be here because we're talking automation, we're talking mobility. I think we might hear the word digit, which is the name of a robot too. And with me right now are Adam and Pete. Thanks for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Thank you.
Doing well. Thanks for having us, Sarah.
Great. Well, why don't we start with you telling everybody who you are and what you do?
Sure. So Adam Klein, I'm the Senior Director of Product Management at Manhattan. I have responsibilities around our warehouse management strategy, which includes the warehouse execution system, connectivity to automation, and digits.
And digits.
What about you, Pete?
I am Pete Allen. I am Head of Strategic Partnerships at Agility Robotics. I had previously was at Berkshire Grey Robotics. I've been in the space now for 4 or 5 years and excited to be here joining you, Sarah, for this.
I'm excited too because I recently got to dance with a robot.
You did.
And it's Pete's robot that I got to dance with, and their name is Digit, right?
The Digit was dancing with the dancing machine. She was also doing the robot, which was quite interesting.
It was a horrible robot. I definitely need to brush up on my dancing skills, but thank you very much for that opportunity because I've been wanting to dance with a robot for a very, very long time. I've been talking about it since, I think, January 2023.
Which has come true.
All right. So what is the state of automation in warehousing today? What is driving that adoption as well?
Yeah, so it really comes down to labor. So we've seen a crunch in terms of labor availability inside the warehouse. It really goes back a number of years. Pre-pandemic, we started to see a little bit of it. Obviously, a lot of acceleration in terms of the need for labor augmentation, automating repetitive tasks, and so forth. But I really think it's labor availability and how do we make the people that we have more efficient, more highly productive, and really just get more out of what we've got today.
Absolutely, Pete.
Yeah, I think you also find that besides the labor, they have to increase capacity in these buildings, right? And I think what we're seeing is systems integrators are playing a much stronger role in accelerating the adoption of robotic automation because they control a lot of these buildings, right? Their customers look to them to figure it out, and they have to increase the capacity. So they are more rapidly adopting robotic automation. And we see it across the tier 1 integrators and now some of the mid-tier ones that are more progressive are doing it. So I think that is accelerating this growth.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. And some birdie told me about virtual gyms. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we were with Matt Dermondy earlier today, and Matt was telling a very colorful story about how in the future, 2-3 years down the road, that these robots will be going into a virtual gym. And you can imagine in a virtual gym, while you could maybe train a robot to do a use case, you could maybe train 10,000 of them to do a use case. And what he was really referring to was AI, right? And there's a lot of hype. Like AI is the most overhyped word that we hear across every industry, right? Everybody's got to throw it into their taglines now. But in the world of mobile manipulating robots or humanoid robots, people think AI is like this magic thing that's going to make the robot do it. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. And what Matt was really trying to say was, you've got to actually have the robot go out and do use cases, create large amounts of data, a data lake, if you will, to feed the AI model. It goes back to the virtual gym, right? Feed the AI model so that it can actually do multiple use cases, and then you can accelerate new use cases and rapidly deploy them out of that virtual gym.
Yeah. What is the key to that?
Well, I think that it's interesting because one of the things that Matt mentioned, it's really interesting that for a human to become an expert in anything, it's about 10,000 hours of work, right? So you got to practice. We got to go to the gym, and sometimes you see results, right? So maybe it takes a little bit longer than you want to. But in this scenario, you send 10,000 robots to the virtual gym for an hour. They're experts in the use case.
Right. Instead of the other way around,
right?
Which takes way too long because change is happening so rapidly.
That's right.
Right? I think Google's mentioned that the other day. All right. So what are the different types of automation? What areas can they impact?
Yeah. So automation is very broad. I mean, you've got, obviously we're talking about robots and humanoid robots. There's a lot of different styles
of robots.
Yeah,
okay.
Certainly. So there's, in addition to the humanoids, you've got what we call autonomous mobile robots, which roll around and maybe have totes and so forth. Sometimes you might see just a very simple platform on wheels that can carry pallets around and things, but they're fairly purpose driven for a specific use case. Also, there's traditional conveyance, ASRS or shuttle systems, which move totes in and out of a system for storage, high density storage. Print and apply systems. The list goes on and on. There's literally hundreds of different styles of automations.
Picking,
Yeah,
right? Robotic sorting. There's all kinds of robots that proliferating across. And I think where Digit comes in from agility is Digit is playing the role of connecting these islands of automation. Right today at an ASRS, person will fill an order tote, right? And that order tote will be moved by a person to maybe an AMR. And then an AMR will scoot it over to a conveyor, and then a person takes it off. So these are these islands of connections that are being made. Well, Digit can play that role because people
Fill the gaps.
Fill the gaps.
Yeah.
Great line. Fill the gaps because one, people don't want these jobs. They're repetitive. They're labor intensive. They're they get injured. So Digit's a perfect fit to fill those roles because the turnover there is just ridiculous. It's like 100% all the time.
So you chose humanoid robots. Talk to us about the reason behind that.
Yeah, I would actually change the verbiage and say we chose human-centric.
It's human-centric,
robots.
okay.
And the reason I say that is there are some very different aspects of how Digit was built compared to all the other humanoids. You can watch them all on videos. They're all out there. Some of those videos are real and some might not be so real.
Deepfakes.
Well, I didn't say that, you did. But so I would start with a couple things that I would call intelligent design about Digit. One is we intentionally are not building robotic hands. Like I have many friends who are PhDs in mechatronics and know how to build these things. And they're like, these are many, many years away from being very dexterous on a robot.
Okay.
And these are all little midget motors, right? So this is not the answer. We said, why build hands to hold tools?
Right.
If I want to pound a nail in with a hammer, I'm going to go grab a hammer. But if a robot can do it, why not make these auto swaps and have different tools on the end? So I can have a paddle to pick up a tote or a clamp or a hammer if I wanted to hammer a nail with a robot down the road, right? So we think that makes more sense. And the second thing you'll notice if you look at Digit is Digit's knees are bent backwards. All other humanoids' knees bend forwards. Why is that, right? Well, people think, well, we're built this way. We should build a robot this way. Physics comes into play.
Balance. I was going to say balance.
Well, it's physics and balance, right?
Okay.
So the physics part, or the balance part is related to physics. So if I'm going to bend over as a robot, I'm going to have to lean forward. My knees are going to bend forward. And I want to pick up a 50-pound tote. I'm going to run right into my knees to begin with. So I've got to have this now balance thing that I'm dealing with to get it up. Those legs have to be massive. Digit's legs are tiny. They bend backwards, and Digit can get right up next to that tote, grab it perfectly, slide it right up, and on its way. So those are two major intelligent designs into Digit that's separated from all other humanoids.
So interesting. And there's so many different variations like you were talking about. There's also wearable technology. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So, as we look at the human side of the warehouse, we're constantly looking to improve and innovate the user experience there. But again, it's a very repetitive process that they're going through, right? I'm scanning an item, I'm scanning barcodes over and over and over again. So how can we optimize that experience? How can we, give them the most productivity, the most throughput as possible? And so whether it's a wearable, it's voice technology, or maybe even visual, we have some new partners in that space as well. The idea is that we try to optimize the experience for the user, for the task at hand. And then, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that not only do we have these humans out there going through the workflows, we also have the robots and all these other styles of automation. And our solution has to be nimble and flexible enough to orchestrate the work across all of those.
And seamless.
It has to be seamless for sure.
And they all have to work together and collaborate.
They do. And, at the end of the day, the warehouse workflows are a series of, different processes, and you're going to have bottlenecks. And we have to really kind of anticipate and understand what those bottlenecks are and, flow work through the distribution center to maximize utilization of every piece of automation and every human in the DC.
Well, and I would also assume empower users for exceptions management.
Exceptions, they're tough, right? And there's a lot of them. So when you think about exceptions, you have to think about how much training is there, how easy can you make it for the user to get past that exception when it's presented. So what we try to do is we try to present a workflow that's intuitive, And at the end of the day, it looks like, our smartphones, and, we want to make sure that they can, get out on the floor fast and have no, we don't want weeks of training. We want hours.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting time in robotics and mobility. Do you have any sort of last words you want to share before we go?
Yeah, the one I would talk about a little bit, particularly as it relates to human-centric or humanoid robots, is that there are no safety regulations today for these robots, right?
Yes.
So these are not cobots in the world today. We will put safety guardings around them in their particular workflow. And I think at Agility, we have experienced talent who have been grown up in this space of robotics in warehouses. We understand the space. People like Melanie Wise and Pras Filippinati, myself, and others. So I think it's important that we understand this for our customers. I'm not sure the rest of the humanoid space totally gets this yet, but it will be eventually. These will be cobots and they will work side by side. But in today's world, if you're not guarding for the safety, it's a big aspect that people are overlooking.
Yeah,
so just something to think about.
That is definitely something to think about. Any last words?
Yeah, no, I think that, this is a really exciting time to be in the distribution space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new technology out there. And, as we look to see from a solutions and software perspective, how can we seamlessly interact with all of these different types of automation, and for some of these new, I'd say buzzy type of automation, we start to see things move from proof of concept into production scalability, which I think we're not that far from.
Right.
I think it's going to continue to be even more exciting moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see where we go. And like you said, I don't think we're that far from actually doing cobots. I think that's what you called it. Well, anyways, thank you, Pete and Adam, for joining me today.
Thank you, Sarah.